Victoria's hotel quarantine inquiry has heard more damning claims about how the state's second wave started. But some of the guards and their employers have fired back. They say a lack of training and poor protocols required them to take COVID-positive residents for a walk.
If anybody was to do a runner or abscond, we were to let them go, and then it would be advised to the police, whose job it would be then to follow up under the terms of the Quarantine Act.
It's shambolic, isn't it? Victorian Liberal MP and Shadow Minister for Workplace Safety, Nick Wakeling, joins me now from Ferntree Gully in Melbourne's southeast. Thank you for your time, Nick Wakeling. 99% of the cases in Victoria's second wave can be linked back to hotel quarantining, and it seems as though these security guards were the scapegoats, made the scapegoats, but they're starting to fight back, and they say they won't be copying the full blame.
Yeah, good evening, Peter. And I mean, this is just a complete and utter fiasco. And as you've rightly pointed out, I mean, of the 5,395 cases of coronavirus that have been identified, they have been directly linked back. 99% of those cases have been directly linked back to hotel quarantining. And when you've got a situation that security guards were allegedly being recruited off Gumtree, turning up to work, no PPE, no training, no induction, no information. In fact, some of them didn't even know what they were there for. It just highlights the disaster that is hotel quarantining and its impact it's having on not only Victoria but impacting on the whole nation.
Yeah, look, in some of the testimony, Nick, they were told, PPE would be available, but they weren't shown how to use it until they were a couple of weeks into the job. We know that there was one celebrated piece of evidence where a guard said he had diversity and inclusion training, but he didn't have infection control training. I mean, are we aware of which minister was actually in charge of this program? Is there any indication that there'll be, the termination of ministers, the sacking of officials responsible for this scheme? It's cost the state literally billions of dollars and many lives.
Look, I mean, this is a government that's running away from any scrutiny. We know that the Premier just sheds any responsibility back to the COVID inquiry. I mean, we know that Minister Mikakos, we know that Minister Pakula, but we also know the Premier. They were all well aware of what was happening in regards to hotel quarantine. And the Victorian community, the nation, because let's remember, this is impacting nationally, want to see heads roll. They want to see people held accountable. And as you're aware, we've discussed this before, this matter needs to be referred to and investigated for OH&S breaches. And, we need to ensure that those who are at fault are held accountable. Victorians expect that.
There was a bit of a stoush that played out for a number of days over the Australian Defence Force. Were they requested? Were they refused? Well, the Defence Force has revealed 640 soldiers helped man quarantine in other states, New South Wales, Queensland and Victoria, and yet the Premier still refuses to concede that Victoria was offered the same level of support. That came from the Defence Minister. She said it was offered, and the Lieutenant Colonel in charge said the offer was absolutely made. How can the Premier continue with this line of defence?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we know that they were offered because, they were utilised around the country. I mean, they didn't want to use the ADF. They weren't using police. They were relying on security guards off Gumtree. And as was pointed out today, they didn't have the power to detain anyone. They really didn't have they were just using search powers like they do at the MCG, which was just doing a casual look through people's bags and really had no power. I mean, this is not about blaming staff that were employed as a security guard. This is about recognising that this program was run by the government. This was a government decision, and failure is at the feet of this government, and they need to be held accountable.
Nick Wakeling, thank you for your time.
Thank you.